What's up, Vanguardians? Welcome back to the live stream. What's up, everyone? What's up, Zach?
Hey, man, how's it going? Back for 2 days in a row, Sunday, Monday. Usually we are not here one of those days, but we were in the mood to go and come at you guys and talk about a little bit of left beef for dinner. Actually, it's right around lunchtime now. But yeah, super excited to get into all of it. And I think this will actually be a really good foil for a good discussion. So I'm excited to plow into the nuances of the debates that we're going to be covering today. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. But as always, we're going to begin with a shout out to our patrons, the people who make the wheels on the van go round and round.
Absolutely. Huge shout out to the patron community. Thank you guys so much for your support. As you guys might know, we do like to start and end all of our live streams with a big shout out to the patron community, because the support from our patron community does make the Vanguard possible, not just our live streams and videos and all that good stuff, but also the documentary content that we're about to be putting out for you guys. We're hitting the road in just a couple of weeks to, begin filming on our first documentary project. Should be out by September at the latest. So again, really appreciate the Vanguard community, the Vanguard patrons at this time, because it ain't going to be cheap hitting the road. You guys know, how gas prices are these days and the expenses that are associated with traveling. So, again, we really appreciate the support, guys. You make the show possible. You make the content possible. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. And that's why we like to start and end all of our live streams with a big fat shout out. But as you guys know, the link's in the description. So if you are interested in joining the Vanguard patron community and helping us out, supporting the show, you can find the link in the description, as always. So yeah, that's how we like to start the show. But let's get into things. Looks like we already have our first super chat. Shout out to you, Christina, for the first super chat of the live stream. Thanks so much for the $4.99. I'm sending you a message on my work break. Thank you for calling out Jimmy's enabling of Nick. He's a fraud. Yeah, we're going to be getting to a little bit of that stuff later in the live stream. But thanks so much, Christina, for the $4.99. Really appreciate the super chat.
Yeah, I do believe that we may have been the first people to ever chastise Jimmy about the People's Party. Not my most persistent hour, but we did broach the topic with him over a year and a half ago. And we will probably be the last person to stop. So thank you, Christina, and you found the right podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think it was actually Zach. It was you yourself that asked him to his face on our interview with Jimmy Dore back in the day about his support for the People's Party in wake of the complaints coming out at the time. Because you guys might remember, far before Zaina Day accused Nick Brana of anything, there was already a ton of people, just volunteers and people that were working at the People's Party that were coming out and trying to raise the alarms about what a dysfunctional environment it was there. Again, far before any of the Me Too kind of stuff went down.
Before we knew the extent of the criminal fucking sadism.
Alleged criminal
sadism.
Yeah, I don't want to get any comments being like, they're gonna fucking sue you. But anyway, Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in to today's live stream. Make sure to hit that like button while you're here. Helps promote the stream in the algorithm, get some more eyes on us. But yeah, I did want to start with one story that's pretty important and also just really awesome. Wanted to help spread the news, get the word out about this. And that's the fact that the first Trader Joe's store ever has voted to unionize, continuing kind of the snowball effect of unionization we've been seeing lately, contributing to the hot labor summer. So this is pretty lit. Trader Joe's location in Hadley, Massachusetts, has become the first ever Trader Joe's store to unionize. The NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, confirmed to ABC News that the employees voted for a union and counted the votes on Thursday. The result was 45 yes to 31 no votes. Who votes no on a union, by the way? Why would, I know there's a lot of propaganda and all that stuff, but still, come on, how do you fall for that?
Well, a lot of people who typically what it is, and just to give them the fair shake of giving their perspective out. One, yes, there's a lot of propaganda. Two, a lot of people think that the store might get closed if a union is successful. So there's a lot of pressures on the working class to not form a union. Obviously, you and I would say, you got to go balls to the wall regardless. But, if you really genuinely need that job and you have kids to feed and a mortgage and shit, and, you're like, fuck, if I do this, maybe it won't even help me that much and I could lose my job as a consequence. So, it's important to create that security net and assuage those fears when you're unionizing. But that could be a big part of why some people vote no.
Yeah, I was mostly joking, but you're 100% right, Zach. There are very legitimate reasons why people do vote no, and it's not because they just don't have solidarity or they don't, it is because of genuine fears that the propaganda campaigns by these corporations wage. So that is very legitimate. But anyway, the result was 45 yes to 31 no's. The party had 5 business days to file objections. Kayla Blado, the NLRB director and press secretary for the Office of Congressional and Public Affairs, told ABC News, if no objections are filed, the results will be certified and the employer must begin bargaining in good faith with the union. The groups of workers calls itself Trader Joe's United. Earlier in May, the workers had sent a letter to Trader Joe's CEO citing various concerns about safety, benefits, and pay, and asking for a union election without interference or obstruction. Today, Trader Joe's Hadley became the first unionized Trader Joe's location ever, the group said in a statement Thursday. This victory is historic, but not a surprise since the moment we announced our campaign. A majority of the crew have enthusiastically supported our union. Now begins the difficult work of sitting down at the negotiating table as equals with our employer and securing a contract that will benefit us and protect us, the crew, instead of the company's bottom line. And that's just such a perfect way to sum up what, having a union and being organized is all about: putting the interests of the workers, putting the safety of the workers ahead of the bottom line of a giant corporation. So super based, obviously Zach and I stand in solidarity and congratulate these union organizers for successfully pulling off the first ever unionized Trader Joe's, which, by the way, is a store that Zach and I quite enjoy.
Yeah, this is something I'd been following for a while. I know we talked about it a little bit on Colin, but one of the really important things I think about this Trader Joe's thing is the fact that, it just shows that any of these like faux progressive companies are not actually really progressive companies, right? There was, maybe it was like Now This, or maybe it was something like that was going around Twitter, where they actually interviewed a lot of these workers that were attempting to organize a while ago. And they were talking about how, the customers that come into Trader Joe's, they go there because they want to go shop somewhere where they think the employees are being treated well, where people have benefits, where they can have sick leave, time off, where, you go there because you think you are paying a little bit extra, right? It's not the cheapest grocery store, but because everybody's being treated well there. It's the same reason why Gavin and I like to go to our local co-op called the Merc, because everybody there doesn't, is like being paid and seems to be having a way better time than if you go to like a Walmart or something to buy your groceries, right? They're not being as exploited to that degree. Well, it turns out that was all just images in like marketing for Trader Joe's. And when they these union staffers were like, hey guys, no, we're going to bring this message to the public. I think a lot of people in the we're just surprised to see that a company like Trader Joe's was like such horseshit, right? And that they were actually fighting tooth and nail against this union. So massive solidarity to the workers, and it just shows that there's no such thing as a good employer where you don't need a union. Like every single workplace deserves a union where they can negotiate with their employer, regardless of how like hippy dippy it looks. Like just like Whole Foods back in the day, right? You would think that just because even before it got the Jeff Bezos takeover, right, that it was like a perfect place to work. Like no, those workers also would have grievances, and just because it like has a nice environment doesn't mean that, as a result of capitalism, these workers are by the very result having their like labor stolen from them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And Christian Smalls himself stopped by Trader Joe's in Hadley, Massachusetts, to show solidarity with these union organizers. So again, this is just so dope. Really warms my heart to see. Again, now we have Starbucks unionizing. We got the first Trader Joe's unionizing. And obviously, thanks to Chris Smalls and the ALU crew, we have the first Amazon warehouse that's organized. I don't know if they've officially certified that or not yet, but we got to get Chris Smalls on the podcast, hopefully, to talk a little bit about that. Would love to chat with the guy again. But anyway, once again, just congratulations to these workers. Super cool that they're setting the example. Hopefully we see some more Trader Joe's following suit in the near future.
Yep, 100%. So super based, and yeah, can't wait to see more Trader Joe's follow suit. I know there's already some in the work, and solidarity to all those efforts.
Absolutely. And thank you, Darius. By the way, Darius won for the $5 or €5 or whatever that is. Thanks. Pounds. Yeah, I'm so bad at currency. Sorry, guys. I'm a literal idiot. But thank you so much for the £5. Have some of my sweet, recently acquired paycheck. Well, thank you so much, Darius. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And solidarity from across the pond.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in today as well. And do you want to move on to this Kyle Kulinski versus Nathan J. Robinson story, Zach?
Yeah, I've been really excited to talk about this because I just think that this is a hilariously bad take from Nathan Robinson in Current Affairs, and I'm excited to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, no, I am too. I'm also very excited to break this down. As you said, Zach, a hilariously bad take. Just one second here while I pull it up. But yeah, as you guys might know, Nathan J. Robinson writes for Current Affairs. I think he's like the lead editor of Current Affairs. And he recently pinned a piece talking a little bit about his criticisms of the John Fetterman campaign, which has been one of the more successful campaigns of national level Democrats running for Senate. Very successful campaign. He's currently up in the polls against Dr. Oz, who's, of course, the Republican nominee in Pennsylvania. And apparently, Nathan J. Robinson has some beef, has some issues with the way Fetterman is running his campaign, with the way he's kind of constructed this senatorial campaign. Anyway, he took to Current Affairs to pin this piece, and Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk decided to respond in video form. And I thought this was a really, really interesting kind of response to the argument laid out by Nathan Robinson in his piece. And surprisingly intense too. Kyle gets a little bit more aggressive than I was personally expecting, really calling out Nathan Robinson. I wasn't just exaggerating in the title, guys. This is pretty intense.
Yeah, it's solid. And look, I think Nathan in this piece embodies why the left always loses so well. He just can't help it, but just take anything that shows that an inch of success and like, oh wow, this is actually relating to people. The left needs to turn its nose up at it and be fucking boring as shit, stodgy, like fucking just, I don't know, the exact fucking image that everybody who hates leftists has of us, like, you know, bookworm socialists, like that can't relate, can't have a good time, can't let their hair down at all. Anyway, we're gonna react to this and add our own fucking diatribes in here of complaints, but we'll let the video play.
All right, y'all. So Nathan J. Robinson of Current Affairs magazine wrote an article, and it's about John Fetterman. Now, John Fetterman is running against Dr. Oz. It's for the U.S. Senate seat in Pennsylvania, and he's been very effective, let's say. And my evidence for that is he's up in all the polls. Now, that's impressive, especially because there is a wave Republican election that is supposed to happen. You know, the conventional wisdom is like, well, whenever the White House is won by one party in the next midterm election, the other party usually has a wave. And in recent history, that's accurate. Now, I don't think it's a law of nature. I don't think it is perfectly cyclical. I think if you govern effectively, then you can break that streak. But recently, since neither party really serves the will of the American people, that has happened. So Fetterman is one of the only Democrats who's up. And he's running a very interesting and different campaign. So Nathan J. Robinson is a leftist writer, Current Affairs magazine. And here's what he says. John Fetterman should ditch the extremely online messaging. Okay, so let's read some of his argument before I say anything on the topic. Relentlessly trolling Dr. Oz on Twitter is funny, but we desperately need a campaign with a strong, clear, progressive agenda. One of Bernie Sanders' best qualities is that he is laser focused on the issues that matter most to everyday people. You cannot get Bernie off topic. He does not want to talk about himself. He even resisted criticizing his opponents. Bernie is the most on-message politician in American public life, hammering relentlessly on the need for adequate healthcare, tackling the climate catastrophe, and raising the minimum wage. Ben Burgess and I recently analyzed the debate that Bernie did with Lindsey Graham, in which Bernie cleaned Graham's clock in large part because Bernie focused on exposing how Republicans do not care about the needs of working people. So I broke that down as well. I broke that debate down as well. And I agree with their assessment that Bernie obliterated Lindsey Graham. And of course, obviously, needless to say, I'm a huge Bernie supporter. This is an important source of Bernie's appeal. People get the sense that he is not in politics because he enjoys it. He does not seem to enjoy it, but because he is devoted to improving the lives of others. John Fetterman is the Democratic candidate for this year's Pennsylvania Senate election. It's a U.S. Senate election in Pennsylvania. He was a Bernie supporter, and so Democratic centrists disliked him at first. But Fetterman trounced the boring centrist he ran against in the primary. Now that Fetterman is critical to Democrats retaining control of the Senate, the party is funneling money into his race. I like John Fetterman a lot and have high hopes for him. He speaks movingly about the work he did improving the economic health of down-and-out Braddock, Pennsylvania, when he served as its mayor. Fetterman seems to genuinely care about his city. Pete Buttigieg, on the other hand, seemed to very obviously be using his position as mayor as a springboard to higher office. Fetterman is currently recovering from a stroke and has had to campaign mostly online. He has certainly embraced the online aspect of campaigning, using Twitter to relentlessly troll his opponent, celebrity Dr. Mehmet Oz. Most of Fetterman's barbs attempt to paint Dr. Oz as a carpetbagger who had not spent much time in Pennsylvania before running for Senate there. A Fetterman ad shows images of Dr. Oz's New Jersey mansion of a video of him kissing his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and says he's not one of us. Fetterman has put a great deal of effort into pursuing his line of attack, going so far as to get Jersey Shore's Snooki to record a message to Dr. Oz, previously to troll Oz.
Actually, we can let Kyle say read a little bit longer, but when he makes the comment about the cost, I need to.
Fetterman hired a plane to fly a banner over New Jersey welcoming Oz home. Is that what campaign dollars are going toward?
Pause it. Yes. Yeah. You think the campaign dollars should go towards winning a fucking election, Nathan? Are you dumb as rocks? Hello. That cost him $350. I don't know if you have no idea how elections work, Nathan. Let's start there. Let's just pretend that this is day one for you, right? You fired all of your real socialist staff, and so now you're having to spin your wheels on your own for once. And let's just take a real fucking look at this for a second. Okay. Do you know how much it costs to get anything on the fucking airwaves? Let's say you don't. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in money needs to be spent to get on airwaves on television in a meaningful way in a Senate race, in a U.S. Senate national race. Okay. It cost him $350 to get that clip from Snooki that went viral and was seen by millions and millions of people, right? I imagine a fuck ton of them in Pennsylvania, okay? And not just people in Pennsylvania, people who are going to send him a fuck ton of money from outside of Pennsylvania, people with a lot of extra cash to burn, right? Unlike those poor motherfuckers in Pennsylvania that we want John Fetterman to represent, right? It's going to be the more opulent people who are like, oh, that was fucking hilarious. Let me send that guy $100 because they have $100 to send him, right? That was genius. That was a work of art politically. Are you fucking dumb? The plane over, this is all brilliant. And if you can't see that, then you're exactly what is standing in the way of the left succeeding, because you cannot fucking let yourself do anything that is remotely likable, that is remotely popular, that makes you relatable to any other person on this fucking planet that doesn't want to just read Marx and jerk themselves off in fucking purple clothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've seen even some people in our chat saying like, oh, well, Fetterman is not running a substantive issue-based campaign. Bullshit. Look at his website right now. His platform is more substantive than any Democrat running at this level. He says the minimum wage should be a living wage of at least $15 an hour. Healthcare is a fundamental human right. Climate change is an existential threat. Weed should be legal nationwide. Immigration is what makes America America. A union way of life is sacred. And of course, there's a lot of, it's not just the phrases. He actually lays out his policy, beliefs as well. But it's just not true that Fetterman's like not running a substantive issue-based campaign. He is running the most substantive issue-based campaign, the most populist campaign of any national level Democrat running for Senate, which, by the way, here's a hint, is why the Democratic Party tried to stop him in the primary. That's why almost every single Democratic Party official endorsed Connor Lamb over John Fetterman, because Connor Lamb wasn't going to run a substantive issue-based populist campaign, and they knew John Fetterman would. And apparently the Democratic Party doesn't like it when their candidates win. Anyway, just thought I'd clear that up. Let's keep watching a bit of this video.
Fetterman's latest stunt is starting a petition to get Dr. Oz inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame. Fetterman's tactics have certainly attracted press coverage. The New York Times notes his towel-snapping virtual campaign of sassy online memes, and the Daily Beast asks, could John Fetterman shitpost his way to the Senate? I'll be honest. I think all of this is stupid and morally frivolous, and I wish John Fetterman would not do it. Even if it turns out that in 2022 you can shitpost your way to the Senate, you shouldn't. A progressive Senate candidate should force a discussion on.
Also, what does morally frivolous even mean? Do you even know what that he's trying to say there?
He's saying that it's morally, it's not the best turn of phrase, right? And Nathan loves to hear himself spin yarn more than anybody in the goddamn world. Matt Taibbi actually roasted him fucking better than anybody for that one time. Anyway, but anyway, yeah, I think what he's trying to say is that he's basically just trying to say that it's like vacuous, right? That it's like morally a waste of time, that there is nothing ethical about doing this, which is fine. But it's like, what you're saying that you would rather him not use this strategy that's going to get him into the Senate, which you already said you agree with way more of his policies. And it's like, I have criticisms of John Fetterman too. We've never hid them. We've never been simps for the guy. I don't think Kyle simps for the guy. He brings up his criticisms of him later on in the video and the Vanguard wink. So yeah, sit tight, guys. We have more to say.
Things that matter. not get the media talking about how sick his Twitter burns are. I also think Fetterman is taking a big risk here by assuming that Pennsylvania voters can actually be influenced by memes. DeRay McKesson found out the hard way that being big on Twitter doesn't translate into electoral success when he badly lost Baltimore's Democratic primary election for mayor. Okay, let's pause here.
I like how he brings that up, but fails to bring up instances of the opposite being true, where candidates, their social media presence clearly has helped them win. And I hate to bring this up or make this comparison, but did we forget Donald Trump? Did we forget about Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, who basically shitposted his way into office? Like, let's not act like this isn't a possibility. Like, there's no precedent for this happening. Just saying.
Yeah, and I can already hear Nathan. Well, I don't want the left to just adopt the tactics of Donald Trump, right? It's like, you don't want us to win? You don't want the left to win? No, you don't. You would rather pout about how everybody is doing it incorrectly while you still have your virtuous fucking textbooks and shit, instead of actually getting some meaningful, tangible results for people on the ground in Pennsylvania, bro. That's what this is about. Okay, I don't think that John Fetterman's perfect, okay, but I would vote for the guy because I do think that he means what he says when he's like, he trying to tell me that his campaign videos aren't substantive. One of my favorite things burned in my brain about John Fetterman, right, is he had this campaign video where he's got a Carhartt coat on and basketball shorts. It's probably cold as shit outside. He doesn't care. He's just an everyday working guy, and he's walking, and then he sits down in a chair, and he's like, if you think that another human being should sweat and toil for $7.25 an hour, vote for the other guy. Yeah, that's the kind of energy that people relate to. That is good messaging. That is policy messaging, okay? This dude is union as fuck, okay? And we are seeing a union renaissance in this country. More unions are started this year than there have been for fucking 2-3 decades probably before then. I looked at the numbers one time. I don't have them fucking in front of me. Okay, it's been a lot more unionization this year than we've seen for a long time. That's good. That's powerful. This is a guy that fucking believes in unions. I don't know if he believes in anything else besides those two issues, but I know Dr. Oz doesn't believe in those two issues, and I think it's clear as day that Fetterman does. I think he would definitely push to legalize cannabis. I think that he would definitely have better immigration policies than Dr. Oz, who would just parrot the Republican line like he's doing, because he's illustrated throughout this entire run that he's willing to just abandon any principle that he had in order to succumb and court the Republican base like he did in the primary with his fucking, just big name. But anyway, we can keep playing. I don't want to get on fucking too many hills.
And also, I'll just add that, yeah, there are serious issues where we disagree with John Fetterman on. We'll expound upon those later. Don't fucking worry, guys. But those issues where we disagree with Fetterman on, Dr. Oz is even worse on those same issues. So just keep that in mind.
Here's the thing, Nathan. Fetterman is up in all the polls right now. So, is it possible Fetterman loses? Absolutely. In fact, I would put it 60-40 that Fetterman does lose. I think Dr. Oz has a better chance in this election, namely because it appears to be a Republican wave election year. Now, having said that, Fetterman, I think, is putting up the best fight he possibly can. And I think it's a little glib to compare Fetterman to DeRay McKesson. As far as I know, DeRay McKesson has had no electoral success. John Fetterman has already had electoral success. Now, beyond that, the argument that this is just, well, it's just memes and it's just online trolling and shitposting, don't agree. And here's the reason I don't agree. The heart of the message from John Fetterman is not just that Dr. Oz is a carpetbagger, which is accurate, by the way. It's an accurate attack. He is that. He's from New Jersey. But it's also that he's an out-of-touch elitist who's not going to represent working people. The line of attack is not just, hey, man, you're from New Jersey. It's, you're from New Jersey, you are mega wealthy, you live in a mansion, you're out of touch, and I am a Pennsylvanian, and I represent hardworking Pennsylvanians. That's the line of attack. It's a mischaracterization to say it's just extremely online trolling. It's in part trolling, but at the heart of it is an accurate argument. Now, by the way,
also, let's just clear something up. It's the year 2022, guys. Where do you think most discourse happens? Online. Like, where the fuck do you think the discourse? And I don't like that. I wish that, everything wasn't so digital these days, but it fucking is. Most of the conversation, most of the discourse, it's occurring online. And the people that John Fetterman are reaching online are real fucking people that can send him donations, real people that can vote for him, etc. It's not like it just means nothing for him to be popular online. That's huge. Having name recognition, having people know who you are, excited about your candidacy, excited to, get behind you. That is a big part of being successful in politics. It's half the battle. And again, it's a kind of an uncomfortable truth, but sometimes policy is only like half the battle in politics. Sometimes having more name recognition, having a bigger personality, having more charisma, sometimes that is like at least 50% of the game here. And again, that's not necessarily a good thing. I wish things were sometimes a little bit more substantive. But if John Fetterman could find a lane in which he can clearly excel in the way he has, then I think that's overall a good thing for his campaign, given that his campaign stands for substantive issues, policies I agree with, and a pretty solid populist leftist agenda.
Yeah, on top of that, if you look at all 50 states, Pennsylvania does happen to be in the top 10 for active Twitter users, so that's not nothing. And if you're going to be a lumberjack, you got to go where the forest is.
I've admitted this before. If I was advising John Fetterman, I wouldn't have said go with a carpetbagger argument. But now watching him do it and seeing how effective it is in terms of the results, I say, oh, that was actually a brilliant argument. Because it works. People in Pennsylvania, regardless of their political affiliation, can understand and acknowledge the objective reality that Dr. Oz is just trying to buy a Senate seat from there. He's not from there. He's out of state. And again, he's elitist. He's ultra wealthy. He's not going to represent the interests of working class people. And John Fetterman will do so much better than Dr. Oz would. And so look, there's this strain of lefties who are like anti-fun. Like, okay, yeah, Fetterman can go up there and give a speech or post a 20,000 word essay, as Nathan J. Robinson likes to do oftentimes, and do a dry dissertation on the marginal tax rates. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Now, I'm not out here saying, hey, don't discuss policy shit. I think you should mostly focus on policy shit. But I also think if you can troll and meme and shit post and it's substantive as well and it works, well, that's a win all around. Look, I find it supremely ironic that he compares Fetterman to Bernie Sanders. And it's like, Fetterman should be more like Bernie Sanders. That's the implication. Bernie Sanders lost, dippy. So it's time to improve upon what Bernie did. Yes, focusing on policy is central and important and the main thing when you're talking about politics because we want to improve people's lives. But in the process of doing that, you should be having fun. You should be attracting people. And
by the way, I just wanted to say that, Zach and I relate to this a lot, this specific conversation, because it's something that we deal with in our comments sometimes. People saying, like, why are you talking about this drama? Why are you talking about this dumb bullshit? This is just, distracting from the real issues, completely ignoring the fact that we do constantly talk about real substantive issues. But it's the same kind of thing where it's like, are you against people on the left being able to be entertained and have some fun and like joke around and meme and troll and talk some shit and get in debates? Like, are you against that? Because if you are, what you don't realize is that you're basically limiting the amount of people that are even going to get involved in this movement to begin with. Because it's a great way to kind of reel people in, especially in online spaces. It's with fun memes and, clickbaity titles and cool thumbnails and funny tweets and, going after people and talking shit. Like, that is the language of the online. And to engage in that is only to understand the people that you need to reach online. And again, if you don't want the left to have a sizable presence in this space, then that's okay, I guess, but I do. And I want people to listen to what I have to say. And I want people to hear the ideas that we talk about and the perspective that we give. And sometimes, again, a good way to do that is to kind of disguise it with more fun, clickbaity, dramatic titles, thumbnails. So again, that's how this affects us in our space. But I think that John Fetterman and some other campaigns have kind of leaned into that in the electoral sense too, by again, just making their campaigns a better, more interesting, more kind of dynamic sort of exercise in which you can dunk on people on social media and you can have a little bit fun with it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not. And the thing is that the other thing about this, right, is that, again, we're going to give Nathan Robinson another lesson in political campaign history, is that if you can be on the forefront of some new medium, it is always beneficial to your campaign. Let's take a look. Gavin, you already brought up Donald Trump. You cannot deny, unless you want to delude yourself into not understanding the fact that Donald Trump changed the game forever in electoral politics by his use of Twitter, by his direct tweeting, everything that he thought. A lot of it was just horrible bigotry, fucking all kinds of dog shit, lunacy, of course. But he changed the fucking game with how he did it, right? He was there. He was tweeting his life thought. People felt like people in his base who were delusional enough to support him, in my mind, they felt like they were getting the real look at him. And that was extremely beneficial to them. And also the way that he masterfully manipulated the media into giving him all kinds of free coverage. Those things were all super important. And he did a lot of that via the internet, right? You look back, who blew up because of the internet before then? Obama, 2008. He masterfully used the internet, email listing. He was so online in 2007, 2008, and he was way younger, and Hillary was not savvy with the internet. And he just kind of made himself youthful in that initial boom of social media. Before that, outsider candidate Jesse Ventura, late 90s, early 2000, right? He was campaigning using the internet. This is how people who do not have the direct, clear path to the White House get in there. They have to do something different, right? It's the same way that, fucking Kennedy was able to thrive on fucking TV, right? Nixon was a radio guy. Okay, these things always happen throughout history, and you have to be ready to prepare. You have to be prepared to respond to them in real time. And what Kyle did was he was like, I didn't see this strategy, but now it's clearly working, and we got to run with it, right? And that's exactly how Gavin and I feel. It's like, look, yeah, we know you can shit post your way to the top now. Now what you have to do is shit post with meaning, right? This is how people communicate now, and you can either be all like, I'm going to turn my nose up at it, or you can just swim in the muck and actually meet people where they are. You know what I'm saying? And I just think it's such bullshit to try and pretend like you are literally an online blogger. Why are you poo-pooing the online? You literally make your money online on the internet. Okay? I don't understand.
Yeah, and if you don't like John Fetterman trolling people on Twitter, then you can just log off Twitter. You'll never have to see it, and you can view the campaign in the way you want to. You don't have to be on Twitter, bro. Like, if you think it's so insignificant, then just log the fuck off. But shout out to you, Mike H, for the $2. Would you guys have Peter Zehan on? From what I know about Peter Zehan, he's pretty cool, like a political commentator or analyst or whatever. So definitely would have him on. I'm not super familiar with the guy's work. But thanks for the super chat and the suggestion, Mike.
Yeah, I'm happy to have most people on. So yeah, we definitely consider chatting with the guy.
Yeah, and thanks again for the super chat, Mike. Let's finish off this video.
Out, if you have fun and you joke around and you meme and you troll, it's attractive to people. Now, that's not my opinion, Nathan. That's borne out in the polls. Now, ultimately, John Fetterman might lose, okay? And at that point, Nathan J. Robinson might turn around and say, see, it's because of all the trolling and the online shit posting. I would look at that and say the national mood and the fact that it's a wave election doomed him, despite the fact that he ran a phenomenal campaign. That's how I would look at it. I just want lefties lighten up a little bit and have some fun. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to be relatable. What Fetterman is doing here is massively relatable, not just to the online left, because if it was just to the online left, he'd be down by 25 points, and he's not. And he's not, Nathan. So it's just funny. You make this argument when he's up in the polls. Wait till he's down, and there might come a time when he's down again. It's a red wave election year. But he makes the argument now because he can't help himself. This reminds me of the article he wrote about Kristol and Sagar, who he's very, very critical. And there are absolutely criticisms of Sagar. I disagree with Sagar. He's on the right, or I don't know, now he might consider himself an enlightened centrist or whatever. That's fine. But you don't need to drag down Kristol to disagree with Sagar. And he did that. And now we have an effective left campaign, or relatively left campaign. And Nathan J. Robinson is, I don't like this. You should do dry dissertations where you talk about marginal tax rates and bore people. How can you look at something that's working and that's fun and is still substantive at the heart of it? Because it's not just that he's a carpetbagger, Dr. Oz. It's also that he's elitist and out of touch and not representing working people. And you disagree with it? I don't get it. One of the core problems with Fetterman's approach is that it assumes voters care more about whether Dr. Oz is from New Jersey than they do about minimum wage growth. Now, that's not fair. That is not fair. It's not like Fetterman doesn't talk about policy. He, of course, talks about policy. But he's also charismatic and entertaining. And you're focusing on the charisma and the entertaining stuff and besmirching it while pretending like he's not talking about policy. Grocery prices, healthcare costs, or gun violence. Personally, I don't actually think the carpetbagger point is that compelling. Well, look, here's the thing, Nathan. I agree with you, which is why I said if I was running Fetterman's campaign, I'd tell him, don't go with the carpetbagger thing. It's not that substantive. But now having...
And by the way, I actually disagree with that. I think the carpetbagger thing is very legit. I think it's a very good line of attack, and I think it's a legitimate one too. It is a valid concern if you're electing someone to represent your state and that person has not lived in your state for their whole life. How is that person supposed to understand the issues of the state? It's not just about this sort of tribalism, like, I'm from New Jersey and you're from Pennsylvania, or I'm from Pennsylvania and you're not one of us. It's not just about that. It's about understanding the issues that affect the state. And I imagine that Pennsylvania has a lot of issues that are very unique to New Jersey. I mean, I know they're close to each other, but like they have very different economies, different populations. There's a lot of things about Pennsylvania that you should want to intimately understand and be aware of if you're going to represent the state in the US Senate. It makes total sense to be like, yeah, I'm going to vote for someone that understands the state that I live in versus someone that clearly doesn't and is just trying to buy the Senate race.
Yeah, and in the next line that Kyle reads, Nathan, qualifies by saying that, if a candidate had good politics but was from out of states, I'd vote for them in a heartbeat over someone with terrible politics but deep local roots. I think that's, again, that's 100% fair of him to say as his opinion. But I also think it goes to again, just back to a deep misunderstanding of how elections actually work. That is not how people vote, Nathan. I am sorry to break your heart. There is no way that if that regular people, like, they don't want somebody that came from out of state. They actually believe that we have a representative democracy, right? Like that. Oh, that's why we have an electoral college. Start barking up that tree with people. I don't believe in the electoral college, but you'll see where real people think about that. It's like, oh, well, the people of Wyoming have to be represented as well as the people of California. And they believe that those are totally different needs, and in some instances they're true, right? They are very different in California than Wyoming, and not that I support the electoral college because it's massively anti-democratic, but anyway, I'm just saying a lot of people do, because they do feel like their home state issues are very different. I'm sympathetic to that argument in some instances. Like, I wouldn't like somebody, let's just say that it's easier for Shama Swant to win a House race in Chicago than it is for her to run against Pramila Jayapal. So let's have her move to Chicago, set up shop, and then run for a House seat there. Right? Like, no, that's not a good look. People in Chicago aren't going to like that. Why the fuck did this lady come from Seattle to come here? She thinks she knows my life. She thinks she knows me because she read about me on the internet. Like, go fuck yourself. This is how people we need to vote for leftists think, okay? Because regardless of what you think about it, people value their community. They value people who have collective experience with them. It is a reality of it. And so just because you think I don't care where somebody's from, like, that is not how people vote. And that's why it's been a massively effective strategy for him to call out Dr. Oz for being a carpetbagging piece of shit aristocrat from out of state. That's why he has powered up in the polls. And people who are in the chat, I see you being in good faith, being like, oh, well, how can we trust the polling after we've seen the polling be bad? It is unanimous, poll after poll after poll after poll. Also, what's really telling is Dr. Oz's internal polling is showing that he is eating shit. You can also see the Republican Party is now recentering their entire Senate campaign strategy to not pour any money into the Dr. Oz campaign because he's down so badly. He's not getting any donations. He has no support. And part of that, it might be due to racism. Gavin and I have talked about that a little bit, a little bit of racism in the Republican Party, not wanting to vote for a man named Mehmet. I don't know. But, he's not doing well. And that's just 100% a reality of the situation.
Yeah, and even regardless of him being Turkish and a Muslim and all that stuff, I think an even bigger issue the GOP electorate has with him is all the stuff that his primary opponent exposed about him, but his liberal past, going on the Dr. Oz show and talking about critical race theory and like having on, trans people on his show on TV. That stuff has incensed the Republican base, which is hilarious. And yeah, they don't really see Dr. Oz as one of them either. They think he's kind of a faker. They kind of see him as this, Hollywood elitist that's now just trying to buy a Senate race and try to kind of pretend or like LARP as a Republican, which ironically is exactly what Donald Trump did, by the way. He also used to be a, New York liberal who then pretended to be a, rough and ready Republican when the time came. But anyway, it's still worth mentioning. But yeah, let's listen to some more of this.
Watched him do it, and looking at the results, I was wrong. Fetterman was right. It works because it turns out sometimes people are a little silly and they think like, well, if you're from out of state, you can't possibly care about the people in state, or, somehow your ideas are less relevant now and your policies are less relevant now because you're not one of us. I think that's sort of weak too, but people don't think it's weak. People respond to it. There's something visceral and innate about it. There's something compelling about that of like, I'm one of you. He's not. Because if a candidate had good politics but was from out of state, I'd vote for them in a heartbeat over someone who had terrible politics but deep local roots. And that's why, Nathan, that's why I agree with you on that point. That's why I agree with you that it's not a persuasive argument to me. But there are times when I feel something and most people don't agree with me. And the same is true of you. Because yes, if I saw a candidate, if there was a left candidate who I loved, who was from out of state, I'd vote for them over, a New Yorker who was in state. A New Yorker who had bad politics or worse politics, but was in state. So I agree with you on the substance of that criticism. But it's also possible for something to not appeal to me and Nathan J. Robinson that appeals to the average voter, and that thing works. And that's what's happening. Fetterman is appealing to an emotional sense of Pennsylvania pride in the state's suspicion of Jerseyites. Oh, God, Nathan. It's fair to say you want candidates who actually know your state well, and that there is an arrogance to rich people who simply assume they can represent any state they like. Witness Nick Kristof's entitled delusion that he could run for governor of Oregon because he was an important man who didn't enjoy the job. But ultimately, what is wrong with Dr. Oz is his horrible reactionary politics. Yes, and that is also being highlighted. That's also being highlighted by Fetterman. Oz's campaign platform includes responding to the global Chinese threat, Jesus, being a dear ally to Israel, cracking down on unauthorized immigrants, escalating fossil.
John Fetterman also wants to be a dear ally to fucking Israel, so we just a PSA.
Yeah, and obviously we've talked about that at length, but one of the big issues with John Fetterman is the fact that he's said that he'll lean in on U.S.-Israel relationship as senator. So just so everyone knows, John Fetterman, far, far from perfect. I think I actually said on the Crystal Kyle interview that we did that he's sort of like an LBJ figure where he's really, really good on domestic policy, but just pretty milquetoast or just dog shit when it comes to foreign policy. And yeah, obviously the Israel thing is pretty hard to look past.
And I'm surprised that Nathan doesn't dig into that right here. He's like setting it up as if like, oh, this is the critical thing that it's like, no, dude, you haven't done your homework at all. Like, fuck.
Fuel production, pushing back on cancel culture, stopping abortion, preventing gun control, giving control of elections to the states, and giving police a powerful voice in Washington. He is running as a hard right Republican and needs to be kept out of the Senate because of what he will do to the country. Fetterman made good ads a few months back about unions, climate justice, healthcare, minimum wage. Wait. You're destroying your own argument here, Nathan. You are. You're saying, well, now look, Fetterman has been substantive. So then why are you writing this article? Why are you writing this article? It's like when he wrote the thing about Crystal and Sagar, and I was like, now I like Crystal. But then you go on to say, like, here's all the reasons why you shouldn't be sitting next to this guy. I don't know what you're doing.
It's kind of funny, too, that Kyle's still defending his girlfriend, Crystal Ball, from that smear job that Nathan wrote about Rising all those years ago. What was that, like 2 years ago? He wrote that piece with like Sagar and Jetty right next to like Hitler on the cover or something.
It was right. It was years ago because we still had the Vanguard blog then. So it's at least 3 years ago, I think. And yeah, he like Matt Taibbi, Crystal, and Sagar. And I agree with some of the criticisms he made of Sagar in that piece, right? I think I even wrote a response to it called "The New Orleans Fancy Points Make Some Points." But the way that he presented all of it was just so god awfully cringy and incendiary and just not going to get you anywhere. And yeah, I think it's a little funny that Kyle is still like, fuck you, bro. Like,
exactly. And also thank you so much, Max Roy, for the $1.99 super sticker. Really, really appreciate that. And thank you, Das Boso Fleisch, for the $4.99. If I would have a huge Twitter following, I wouldn't stop to troll people like Manchin into oblivion. Are you saying you would troll them or you wouldn't? I'm a little confused. Oh, he wouldn't stop. Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I mean, how could you resist? But anyway, thanks so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that.
Gavin and I are going to start making like Uncle Sam style photos of us just like pointing to people. It's like, I need you to troll Mehmet Oz on Twitter.
Oh, man, I don't know. Look, it's a tough line to walk, right? And we've talked about this a number of times on the show, and I've talked about it in interviews. When you're on the left, part of you wants to be like, I am the truth teller, and I'm going to keep it real to everybody. People who are not in my camp, people who are in my camp, people who are my closest allies. I'm going to keep it real, and I'm going to call people out when they're wrong, and I'm going to be the sole voice of reason. That's one instinct people have. The other instinct people have is we need to have solidarity, which kind of flies at odds, and it flies in the face of the idea of like, I'm going to call everybody and everything out. Because solidarity is, you sort of let bygones be bygones, where there's minor disagreements, sweep it under the rug, no big deal, and you move forward together. Nathan J. Robinson.
We will not let any minor disagreements be swept under the rug.
I was like, I know Kyle has us in his brain just at least a little bit when he's saying that, people who have this instinct to just be truth tellers would say, fuck everything. I will say whatever I want about any of these people and burn every bridge and I don't give a shit. It's like, yeah, there's a little bit of the Vanguard in the back of his mind as he's, painting that lyrical picture for us.
We will burn the entire left to the ground over minute disagreements.
And has clearly fallen on the side of, no, I'm going to be the one true voice of reason, and I will critique people, other leftists or nominal leftists, even in an instance where it's strategically dumb. Like, why would you not write an article talking about the effectiveness of Fetterman's campaign and how other leftists should copy it because it is empirically, objectively working? If you have the right...
And that's a great point. Again, like, we're not simps for Fetterman, guys. There's a number of issues, Israel being the probably chief among them, issues that I just straight up disagree with John Fetterman, straight up do. But, like, just from an objective standpoint, regardless of my personal political positions, you have to acknowledge the fact that he's basically the only good candidate the Democrats have right now at a national level, right? Like, can you think of a single other Democrat candidate that's as good as, like, even close to as appealing as Fetterman, just from like an optics perspective, a charisma perspective, and a policy perspective, at least when it comes to domestic policy?
Yeah, 100%. So we can keep playing a little bit.
Ideas, if you have the right policy beliefs and you can marry that with like a fun edginess that appeals to people, why would you not support that? It's unbelievable. Anyway, Fetterman made a few good ads a few months back about unions, climate change, healthcare, minimum wage, but now I keep seeing headlines about his memes and trolling. Most of this is focused on Oz's residency rather than his scary agenda or his background as a snake oil salesman. In fact, the far more devastating criticism of Dr. Oz is that he is a quack who got rich peddling false hope to sick people. Yeah, that's one of them. And but what Fetterman is doing right now is working. So he can add this to the repertoire, but I would definitely not say stop what you're doing because what he's doing is working. You're saying stop what you're doing here and focus on this thing that I just made up, and I will pretend like I know that this thing is going to land even better than what you're doing now. Nathan, you don't know. You don't know. Give credit where it's due. The proof is in the pudding. There's at least one well-made anti-Oz ad that hits this theme hard. So you're saying he did that? I can't. Although it is also going after him for illegally employing undocumented workers. Hypocrisy, of course, but not terribly compelling. That's going to be compelling to Pennsylvania voters. And again, the numbers show it. And it doesn't emphasize enough the harm caused by his prescription of useless miracle cures. Look, Nathan, I like Nathan. I got nothing against Nathan. Him and I, in terms of our politics, we're probably 90% in agreement. But man, he's a micromanager. He's a micromanager. He's trying to micromanage this campaign into oblivion. Now, there are legitimate criticisms of Fetterman that his extraordinarily successful and cool campaign is not working, is not one of them, because it is working. As I say, maybe John Fetterman's memes about Dr. Oz residency will be compelling to Pennsylvania voters. He's leading the polls at the moment. Why are you writing this article? But
also, sorry to keep butting in, but I just got to say, like, when you're running a campaign, the point is to win. And like, I know a lot of people on the left don't want to hear this, but however you got to get there, sometimes you got to do what it takes to get there. The end sometimes justifies the means. And if it means, being memey on Twitter and trolling people on Twitter, who fucking cares? If we have to stop talking about the policy for 5 minutes, who cares if it means you're going to win the election ultimately? And that's something the left needs to really take to heart, I think, because so many people on the left are such fucking purists. They're such goddamn fucking purists. We saw this during the Bernie Sanders campaign. Remember when Bernie was endorsed by Joe Rogan? And of course, like any sensible candidate would, he tweeted out the video saying, hey, look, the number one most popular podcaster, someone that reaches hundreds of thousands of millions of listener ears, this person likes my candidacy and is endorsing me. Of course, any candidate in their right mind would tweet that out. Because why? Because it's going to help you win. Not because you agree with everything Joe Rogan has ever said, not because you're 100% in alignment with the politics espoused on the Joe Rogan experience. No, that's not why he did it. It's because one simple reason: it was going to help him win. And then what happened? All these fucking butthurt losers on his staff decided to rebel and be like, this isn't pure enough for me. I don't like Joe Rogan because of these reasons. Therefore, you shouldn't, advertise his endorsement. Why the fuck are you on this campaign if not to win it? Why the fuck are you a part of a campaign if you don't want it to win? The point is to win so that you would then accomplish the policy goals. Not in the the point of a campaign is not to get the policy goals passed. The point of winning is to get the policy goals passed. The point of the campaign is to win. So in this instance, John Fetterman is doing things that are going to help him win. Even if Nathan J. Robinson doesn't specifically like people fighting on Twitter or trolling their opponents or being rude and being impolite, guess what? It doesn't fucking matter, because all of those things have helped to get John Fetterman in the news, to increase his name recognition, to increase his popularity. And guess what all three of those things are going to do? They're going to help him fucking win, which is his job right now.
Yeah, look, I always say this, and I agree 100% with what you said. I think that was very well put. That we will become John Fetterman's biggest fucking critics the day after he fucking gets signed into office. I'm not lying to anybody about the problems he has. You want me to talk to you about the problems? I've fucking done it, okay? But what I'm telling you is that I think it is easy math. Hello, dumb fuckers. That Dr. Oz is a way shittier candidate and will be way worse for the people of Pennsylvania, okay? So let's focus on, let's see, okay, John Fetterman gets in there, and then it's like, okay, now you're objectively better. Let's start critiquing you. I just think we have to start doing that. Otherwise, we are going to lose for goddamn ever, guys. Like, we have to start learning from our mistakes. We have to start putting fucking, I just don't know what else to tell people. Like, we have to start winning a little bit on the margins, a little bit to get some energy going back for the left. The left is fucking starched right now. You think we're going to have a third party? You're fucking dreaming, okay? We need to get some energy back on our side. John Fetterman's not the fucking guy. Of course he's not, okay? But we need a win from John Fetterman so that the guy can get some goddamn energy up. And that's what I wanted to add.
And also, if he wins, then guess what? A lot of other people are going to be comfortable running with $15 minimum wage, legalizing weed, a strong populist left platform. A John Fetterman victory will prove to a lot of campaigns around the country that, oh yeah, it's actually a good thing to lean into these issues. And it's okay to aggressively attack your opponent. That's something people want more of, and that Fetterman has really mastered. And let me tell you another secret. Not everyone, but a lot of people on the left, they secretly want their own Trump. They want a leftist Trump. Obviously not because of his incompetence once he actually became president, but because of the fact that he was unafraid to viciously attack his opponents, to troll the shit out of his opponents online, on the debate stage. People like that energy, the aggressive, I'm not going to take any shit energy, the tough guy energy. And the left needs more of that. I'm sorry, but it's true. And that's what John Fetterman represents. That's why he's winning.
Democrats who want voters to come out for them really ought to emphasize their agenda rather than just mocking their opponent. I don't know why we're gonna stop reading this now. You're setting up a false dichotomy. This is a massive false dichotomy. You can do both. That's what I try to do on this show. I talk about the issues. I talk about the policies. I talk about the things that I think would help fix the country, but we also laugh and joke and have a good time, and we're silly and we're stupid and we're funny and we're edgy, and we just try to have fun with it. Nathan wants to get rid of the silly, fun, edgy, that side of it, and just be serious and just talk about the agenda. Again, I love Bernie, and in 2016, I think it was basically stolen from him, and the WikiLeaks emails sort of prove that, right? But in 2020, homeboy lost. He lost. And he made a number of mistakes. And instead of looking at that Bernie campaign and saying, well, how do we improve upon it? Nathan J. Robinson's like, no, that's the only way to run, because I, Nathan J. Robinson, say so. But if you see something that is in the same spirit, but it's fun and edgy and online, etc., and it's working, why can't you just be like, oh, cool? Well, I said we'd stop reading. I'll just give a little more. What will you do in the Senate? I want to see progressive candidates get beyond the economic Bill of Rights. I'd love that. I want them to show that they're not going to be do-nothing Democrats who think their job is finished when they beat the Republican. It worries me that a Fetterman ad that popped up for me on YouTube was all about how I should donate to help flip the seat blue, not about what John Fetterman would actually do as a senator. Issues went unmentioned. But he hasn't not talked about issues, Nathan. Look, are there criticisms of Fetterman? Absolutely. The Vanguard guys pointed out he's terrible on Israel. Criticize him all day long about that, and I'd be agreeing with you, Nathan J. Robinson.
I love that Kyle calls him Nathan J. Robinson over and over. Every time, Nathan J. Robinson. What do you think, Nathan J. Robinson? How about this, Nathan J. Robinson?
Yeah. And if you guys didn't catch it, he did shout us out, so I'll go back for that.
I don't think anybody missed your performance, bro.
Hey, just say it. People say, oh, we're not critical enough of John Fetterman. He literally cites us as one of John Fetterman's critics. Oh yeah, the Vanguard guys pointed out this thing about John Fetterman. Yeah, guess who pointed out? Us. Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. The Vanguard guys pointed out he's terrible on Israel. Criticize him all day long about that, and I'd be agreeing with you, Nathan J. Robinson. But this ain't it. This ain't it. The best criticism of Fetterman that I can think of is it was very suspicious to me that the Democratic establishment laid down their weapons against Fetterman. So Fetterman beat, who was it? Connor Lamb, some way worse centrist. And I guess Fetterman met with the Democratic establishment and assured them in one way or another, you ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm with you. That concerns me more than his effective campaign that's working. That concerns me more. So, and in all seriousness, if Fetterman wins, which is a question mark, we don't know if he's going to win. What I would fear is, yes, he gets to the Senate and he becomes a very milquetoast Democrat. He's not in the vein of a Bernie Sanders, and he's more in the vein of, I don't know. I don't want to say a Chuck Schumer because that's really bad, but maybe he is, right? That's what worries me about him. And there are some signs that maybe.
And also, I think the worst case scenario is probably he'd be like an Ed Markey, someone who's like, sometimes signals the right policies, gives lip service to the right policies, but doesn't like seriously fight or seriously aggressively resist the leadership of the party. I could definitely see that happening with Fetterman. Obviously, I hope that he, turns out to be more of like a Bernie Sanders style senator. But I could definitely see him becoming more of like an Ed Markey style senator, which again, we're just keeping it real here. He's not going to be a fucking revolutionary. This guy's not going to bring the goddamn revolution, but it does appear that he's the furthest left option on the ballot for the Senate race in Pennsylvania. Sorry, there's not a fucking Green Party candidate, or else we'd be talking about them. It does appear that John Fetterman is without a doubt the furthest left candidate in the Senate race. And yeah, I'd much rather him be in there than Dr. fucking Oz.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer at this point. And I just think that it comes down to the fact that we have to get some sort of groundswell back for the like quote unquote progressive movement, right? And look, of course, I actually think that that's 100% what's going to happen. I think he will govern like an Ed Markey. I think that was clear as day. He's going to be like an Elizabeth Warren senator. Okay, that's who he's going to be. But if you tell me, do you want another Elizabeth Warren in the Senate, or do you want Dr. Oz? It's not a fucking hard decision, guys. And I'm sorry, I fucking hate Elizabeth Warren as much as the next guy. I think she stabbed Bernie in the back. I think that if it wasn't for her, we might have had a better chance. And again, Bernie had played his own role in his demise and his downfall. He was not willing to play hardball against Joe Biden like he was willing to play hardball against Hillary Clinton. That's a fact. Let's not excuse him or absolve him of that. But I just think that in this instance, in this election cycle, that's about as good as we can fucking hope for. All right. And this is lesser of evilism. At least in this lesser of evilism, we're getting a bunch of shit we believe in. Okay. We're getting shit like, I know for a fact that John Fetterman supports unions 100%. He will not go back on that. If a Republican comes into office and tries to pass a federal right to work bill, he will be the fucking loudest in opposition to that. I guarantee you. That's one thing I can count him on. I think that he will absolutely support legislation if we get a new Democratic president to remove marijuana from the Schedule 1 fucking controlled substance. That's going to let a lot of people out of jail. That's not nothing. That's not just for potheads to get high easier. That is like removing and absolving the criminal records of these individuals who had their lives fucking ruined by the war on drugs in this small capacity, right? And then, of course, we press to make that all drug offenses under the war on drugs. These kinds of things. $15 minimum wage. Yeah, I think he would have the balls to come out and say that the parliamentarian decision was bullshit. I think that's about as far as we'd get from the guy. But again, that's a fucking far cry from what Dr. Oz would be pushing while he was in the Senate, okay? I'm not telling you to donate your fucking money to this guy. I'm just telling you that it's an easy fucking calculation to make with your brain.
That'll happen. But as of this moment right now, the heart of the criticism from Nathan against Fetterman is stop your extremely online trolling. I don't like that. I don't like your campaign. And that's just not good criticism, because it's possible he ends up like Bernie. He supported Bernie, right? And if he ends up like Bernie and he got the power by being edgy and online and trolling while also talking about issues, that's a win. And that's something we should mimic in the future with other left candidates, not besmirch and poo-poo and put down. So anyway, I'm not going to keep going here with this article, but you guys get the gist of it. It's not even that much longer. You guys get the gist of it. Immature mudslinging. He should stop. Ironically, and there's a good note to end this on, I sincerely believe the immature mudslinging is coming from Nathan J. Robinson against Fetterman. That's what I think. Again, you want to criticize him on policy? I'm with you. In fact, I'm certain that every policy criticism Nathan would have of Fetterman, I'd almost certainly agree with Robinson and not Fetterman. I think that's all fair game. But the micromanaging and nitpicking strategy and saying it's bad when it's objectively working, that's just dumb. So you're the immature mudslinger right now, Nathan, and you should stop. I sincerely believe you're better than this.
Yeah, and again, obviously Zach and I are pro immature mudslinging. You guys know that. Not a very big surprise coming from the two of us. But yeah, I mean, there are legitimate criticisms of Fetterman, as we've talked about, not just on this live stream, but on many other live streams. Imagine, instead of writing an article about those very legitimate criticisms, you decide to write a massive fucking multi-thousand word screed about the one thing about Fetterman's campaign that is objectively dope. that is objectively working, that is objectively successful by every single metric. Imagine that being the issue you take with the dude's campaign when there are actual legitimate criticisms to be had of the dude's politics. It really blows my mind. And, you know, I've always found Nathan J. Robinson a little bit cringy, sometimes a little bit annoying. And obviously, when he's fired his whole staff for trying to form a worker co-op, that was disgraceful and we called him out for it. But I have to say, usually when I read one of his articles, despite how wordy it is, and again, sometimes kind of annoying, I usually agree with the substance of what the dude says. This time, I straight up do not. I think he is, you know, prescribing a disaster strategically, saying, oh, stop doing this thing that's clearly working. Stop doing this thing, which is clearly making you more popular. Stop doing this thing, which is massively expanding your name recognition and your ability to connect with voters, not just online, but in general, again, via the increase in name recognition. It's truly crazy to me.
Yep. Yeah, it's super silly. And it's just, it just, again, I just can't help but think it is like the imperfect embodiment of why everybody hates the left. That's not like that, like the people that we could reach, right? But are just like, oh, I'm an independent, like fuck the left. Like those people are terrible to be around. Like that's why they think we're terrible to be around, Nathan. That's why, among a litany of other things that we should work on. But I think that in this instance, look, it was just such a lefty, I don't know another way to put it, academic bullshit critique of somebody who's found a way to actually propel a message that is, you know, let's call it 60% progressive, and actually make it in competitive in an off year for the midterms, right? This is a terrible time to run if you're a Democrat, right? Kyle mentioned that. You know, anytime that you've elected a Democrat and then in the midterms it becomes way harder, especially when gas prices have been the way they are, especially when Joe Biden's been as feckless and fucking terrible and unproductive and just lousy as a president. So that just shows you how effective this is and how terrible of an opponent Dr. Oz is. 100%. It illustrates that. You know, it's like, it's clear as day. And you know, Dr. Oz is obviously, John Fetterman is not a panacea. He's not going to go to the fucking Senate and, you know, save the day. Obviously not. But I would say if you guys were really like, gave the guy a fair look up and down, he has some sketchy things. We're like, okay, no, he doesn't talk about Medicare for all enough now. I think that that's a calculation that he's made to not get fucked by the Democratic establishment while he's running against Dr. Oz. We'll find out where his heart is after the election. But I think that you have the best chance of getting somebody with any kind of progressive ideal set with John Fetterman out of basically any race that's going on right now. I mean, I guess you could make the case that Warnock is more progressive, but I don't really think so. I know people would try because a lot of people like Warnock in Georgia, and I actually think I've read a lot of the polling. At first, I wasn't sure. I think he actually will probably keep his seat in Georgia. Because Herschel Walker just seems to be like a completely unformidable candidate. I was like, oh, whoever the Republicans put up will beat this guy. And then I just don't think that Herschel Walker could win. So those would be the two Senate races that have like even snowball fucking far cry from progressives running in them. And they'll both win. And I think that that's an interesting thing to look at in a red wave time period from like what people would prognosticate, right? The Democrats that are able to retain their seat are at least like rhetorically more progressive than the ones that I think will lose in places like Nevada or Arizona or, you know.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, John Fetterman is objectively the best Democrat politician currently running for office, at least for Senate. There's obviously some people running for Congress that I prefer even more. We just talked to maybe a girl, for example, who's a really dope, serious socialist candidate. But as far as like Senate races, Democrat candidates, John Fetterman is far and away objectively the best one. And again, not only does he have a far better and more substantive policy agenda than anyone else running as a Democrat for Senate, but also his optics are far, far, far superior. As I've been saying for a while now, like it or hate it, the left desperately needs more populist, more tough guy kind of energy. Instead of always propping up these like whiny fucking neoliberal coastal elite types, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, the wine cave folks. We need more people that really feel and look like they come from working class backgrounds, like they represent rural states, like they can speak to people in those parts of the country which aren't fucking San Francisco and New York City. And again, John Fetterman really truly does embody that. So it's just crazy that you have a winning horse here and you still just are critiquing it on the one thing that's making it win in the first place. So anyway, we can probably move on from the segment. We've belabored these points by now. And we do have one more segment to get to, but thank you so much, AV, for the $5 super sticker. Really appreciate that, AV. Thank you also, Brian, for the $4.99. Purity test is the exact criticism Democrats use to shame leftists who don't support them. Are you saying that to us or to Nathan? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the point you're making, right? And look, and there are certain instances where I'll be like, no, like, I don't think that there is enough for instances there. Gavin more than me, even he's firm in every presidential election he's ever voted in. He's only voted for the Green Party, right? But so in some instances, like I do agree with that. Like if you have a mammoth amount of, like if John Fetterman was running for president, I would have a lot more fucking comments and questions about his foreign policy positions. But the fact that he's in the Senate and we know how the Democrats are already going to vote on that, I just think from a fucking calculation of, harm reduction, I think that his domestic policy, beats out Dr. Oz, who would also obviously undoubtedly never stand in the way of any kind of aggression or support for Israel, who, might even, I would say, would go way further than John Fetterman would. So those are some instances why Gavin and I have evaluated this race differently than we've evaluated races in the past, where there are just two dog shit fucking candidates, right? Like I would say that you can't really describe John Fetterman as a dog shit candidate. He's just not a perfect candidate.
Exactly. But thank you so much, Brian. And yeah, I mean, I am usually in favor of litmus tests and purity tests. Like Zach said, I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I'm very grateful that I didn't, make that decision. But John Fetterman, I do think the pros outweigh the cons. Like there is enough of a reason to vote for the guy. Again, I'm not saying donate your money. I'm not saying go spend your time fucking campaigning for the guy. But still, I think there's enough pros to outweigh the cons that I personally would feel comfortable voting for him. And that's coming from someone that did not feel comfortable voting for Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. And by no means am I saying that Fetterman is a perfect candidate whatsoever. But I am saying that he's objectively the best the Democrats have right now, and the left would be foolish not to try to replicate his success where he's had it. I just think that's obvious. But anyway, thank you so much, Brian, for the comment. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you also, Eddie, for the $5. He's worried Fetterman will become another Justice Dim, self-burn. Ouch. Yeah, I mean, let's hope he doesn't. But it is a valid concern. Obviously, there's only so much you can believe politicians before they get into office. Obviously, anyone's going to say anything they can to get elected, and we have to consider that. So yeah, obviously, no one's being foolish here. We all understand that this is a real possibility. But again, I think when it comes to objectively analyzing races, I mean, what are we supposed to just become a bunch of like purity, like every single candidate? We can't support anyone because of what happened with AOC. Like, come on.
Yeah, look, I think that it's almost a likelihood that that's what's going to happen. But the reality is that we need to figure out how we can motivate the people that are in power. Because look, everybody's like, oh, just take to the streets. It's like, okay, yeah, people have been saying that for like my whole life. Oh, just take to the streets. It's like it hasn't happened yet. We need a inside and an outside game. And I do think that working and manipulating politicians like John Fetterman from the inside could be an effective part of our inside game, right? Like, of course, you need an outside movement, but if there are fucking people going through the streets of Pennsylvania demanding, better wages and fucking union representation and, all the shit that we want on the left. I don't see John Fetterman going out there to break it up and start cracking skulls. I don't see him ordering the police. I'm saying I just don't see him getting behind that, going on, CNN and talking about how they're terrorizing the streets. I don't imagine that. So I think having more guys like that in the Senate is going to be net beneficial, even though I don't have obviously any illusions that he's going to be like, again, a panacea.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, thank you so much, Eddie. Really appreciate that. Thank you also, Mariposa, for the $4.99. Looks like you changed your profile picture. Thanks for the super chat, though. Hey, y'all. Hope y'all have a great day. Also, Jon Stewart for president or for something. Yeah, I think he did pour some cold water on those rumors of him running for office. He was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But obviously, Zach and I are fans of Jon Stewart, despite his sometimes cringy takes, which we have called him out for in the past. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need more celebrities to run for president, but I definitely do like Jon Stewart.
I think he's a funny guy, and yeah, I think he does good things sometimes, but I would have to hate him if he ran for president, so I really hope he doesn't do that because he does have some really dog shit beliefs.
Yeah, thank you, Mariposa. Really appreciate that. And thank you also, Mike H, for the $2. Charles Booker is undeniably better than Fetterman. I mean, I think they have pretty similar policy platforms, honestly. Maybe Charles Booker's a little bit better in some instances. I'd be willing to, maybe cede that. But I do think that Fetterman has proved to be a more effective campaigner. Again, I like Charles Booker. I think his heart's in the right place, but I don't think he has a chance in hell against who's he running against? Rand Paul. unfortunately, I don't think he has a snowball's chance in hell of winning that race. And I do think that John Fetterman has at least a 50% chance, if not a 60% chance of winning the Pennsylvania Senate race.
Yeah, I mean, I think any critique that you could make of John Fetterman, you could probably also make of Charles Booker, right? Like if you go to Charles Booker's website, it doesn't just spell out like Medicare for all, right? Like that's a red flag to me as somebody that's looking at it as a voter. But yeah, look, the other thing is the reason we're covering John Fetterman a lot more seriously is that when we said he has the best chance and most progressives out of any senator, I think we were really just talking to anybody that has a fucking chance in hell. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but Rand Paul is like a fucking institution in Kentucky, right? The Paul family is known in Kentucky. He has a base. He has a fucking machine. I mean, that dude, like, you might not hear about him a ton outside of when he's like, roasting Fauci, but that dude is like a political machine. Okay. He's not going anywhere. It would be like running against Mitch McConnell again, which, it wasn't going to happen, right? He was not going to beat
I would say McConnell's even more unpopular than Rand Paul.
For sure. But I just didn't think he was going to beat McConnell either.
Right. And I mean, yeah, again, Charles Booker's fine, but I do think that Fetterman is running the objectively better campaign. And also people are saying like, oh, John Fetterman's imperfect in these areas. You know who else was imperfect in a lot of areas? Bernie fucking Sanders. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, sometimes you got to like swallow the bullet and fucking, choose the candidate that's clearly the best, right? And in the case of Bernie Sanders, just like John Fetterman, yeah, when you support some policies with, like serious vigor, that's worth support in my opinion. Like, yeah, I actually really do care about cannabis becoming legal. I literally know people that spent years in their fucking life in jail for transporting marijuana from Kansas to Missouri in a car. Like years in the fucking jail cell because of that shit. It actually does matter to me that these policies get implemented. Sorry, this isn't just some fucking optical purity test bullshit game for me where I only want to choose the candidate that aligns with me on 99.9% of the issues. No, if I align with someone on 90% of the issues and one of those issues I really, really, really fucking care about, yeah, I'm going to support that person. Because again, I literally know people that have been in fucking jail for smoking weed, and John Fetterman wants to legalize it and free those offenders. So yeah, it kind of fucking matters to me. Same with $15 an hour minimum wage. Like, yeah, this stuff is actually important. So fucking grow up already. But anyway, thank you, Mike. I'm not mad at you.
No, yeah. And the other thing I will say about Charles Booker is that he does have a really base like Kentucky New Deal and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't like trying to poo-poo the guy. I was just in the back of my mind. I think a lot of the like criticisms that people have of a guy like John Fetterman, they also have of a guy like Charles Booker. And Charles Booker is just running such an uphill battle right now, where if you like, there's just no feasible path for him to winning the election right now if you look at any of the polling at all. So that was why we were kind of writing it off a little bit. Anyway, so thank you for bringing that point up, though. Charles Booker is, a decent candidate.
And if he was up 10 points on Rand Paul, obviously we'd be talking about it too. But yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Thank you also for the super chat, Mike. Both are really good compared to other Dems. So yeah, and you're right. Yeah, Charles Booker and John Fetterman are clearly the two best Democratic Senate candidates. John Fetterman's the only one that unfortunately has a chance of winning. But yeah, you're right. I should have included Booker in that as well. Although I also have some disagreements with him, like I do with Fetterman. But yeah, we've been ranting about John Fetterman for like over an hour now, so I guess we can move on. Did you want to segue into this Jimmy Dore story, Zach?
Yeah, we can talk about this before we get out of here. Obviously, this has been something that we've talked about for a long time. We got our first super chat of the day from friend of the show, regular listener Christina, asking about basically this very issue, the fact that Jimmy Dore has gone to every length to continue to run cover for Nick Branna, to not push him on any of the vile fucking allegations, to just sweep it under the rug, to pretend that this is just a op, and that he's fighting the power and that's why people are trying to slander him. It's been so disgusting to watch, because if you as Gavin and I did in the past, I thought that Jimmy Dore actually had like some principles about him. I thought that he actually was a progressive that cared about things like solidarity and feminism and sticking up for women who have said that they've been sexually assaulted or other instances of that, and he's just continuously shat the bed on that. He's continuously disappointed me. He's downright pissed me off multiple times with the way that he's framed this issue on his show. He's been anything but an ally to the broader anti-sexual assault community, really. And then just the fact that this political party, the MPP, is clearly a sham. They were mauling from their official Twitter account, just clowning themselves. We're going to get into some of even Jimmy Dore's audience is even starting to like question this, right? It's like there's only so much you can get away So anyway, Gavin, we can play some of this clip and then react to some of the audience responses.
Yeah, and just to be fair, obviously we got to provide the context here. And yes, I do think that Jimmy Dore is still an infinitely better voice to listen to than anyone on the actual like conservative right wing. Like if you're going to listen to Jimmy Dore or Ben Shapiro or Jimmy Dore, Steven Crowder, obviously Jimmy Dore is the superior option. And yes, the dude is not as right wing as some people make him out to be. It's not like he's just out here saying go vote for Trump and like we should, not tax the rich and like we should not have universal health care. Like, yeah, obviously when it comes to economics and a lot of things, Jimmy Dore is more solidly in the left camp than a lot of other commentators, and he's definitely better than a lot of people in the right wing or in corporate media. So, just the caveats aside, Jimmy Dore is not the worst person in the entire world. He's not the worst commentator in the entire world. We don't have Dore derangement syndrome. But there are very legitimate criticisms of him to be made, including sometimes that come from his own audience. And we wanted to talk a little bit about those today because a lot of people are smelling bullshit when it comes to Nick Brana and the People's Party. And the fact that Jimmy Dore keeps pushing this on his audience and encouraging them to donate to this organization, despite the fact that they have zero results to show for their multiple years in existence now, and untold, probably thousands of dollars of donations flushed down the drain from, again, not just Nick Brana's followers, but Jimmy Dore's own audience, who he consistently recommends they donate. Here's a video called Third Party Banned from Florida Ballot. And Nick Brana's whining about how Florida used some antiquated law to knock them off the ballot in some like very local commissioner, judge, or something position that they were trying to run a candidate in Florida. What he fails to mention is they missed the deadline to even apply for the ballot in the first place. So they missed the deadline to get on the ballot and are now trying to act like it's the fault of the state and that they're, the victim of some fascist antiquated law or whatever, when in reality it's their own incompetence, which is why they weren't able to get on the ballot. And you guys might remember, not even 6 months ago or so, Nick Brana was on the Jimmy Dore show promising that they would have a whole slate of congressional candidates ready to run in the 2022 midterms. I can tell you the midterms are heating up right now. They're upcoming. Missouri votes tomorrow. The state I live in literally votes tomorrow. The People's Party has zero fucking candidates, not a single fucking candidate. What they did do, they waste $20,000 of donation money on a logo they never used. It flushed a lot of other money down the drain into purposes that we know nothing about. Anyway, let's take a listen to some of this video because Jimmy Dore, if you can believe it, does bring up some of these allegations against Nick Brana. And you'd think he'd want to, properly investigate these allegations, right? You think he'd want to at least understand the context of what Nick Brana has been accused of, and not just Nick Brana, but the entire People's Party, because he wants to frame it all as, oh, they're Me Tooing you. This is just a Me Too. There's been issues with the People's Party for years now, far before Zaina Day accused Nick Brana of sexual harassment and sexual assault. There have been volunteers leaving the People's Party in droves, spilling the tea, sounding the alarms about the dysfunction going on behind the scenes in this fake party. We've had them on our show literally over a year ago now. We had on a handful of volunteers who explained to us credibly, and we investigated their allegations about how dysfunctional this party was, about how they were unjustly fired, removed from Slack, subjected to various forms of abuse as far as their relation to this organization goes. So it's not just this one specific allegation against Nick Brana, although that is of massive significance. But again, you'd think that if someone was going to keep parading a third party on their show and its leader asking people to donate to them, suggesting that this is the way forward rather than any other form of activism, you'd think that that person would at least vet the allegations. They would at least familiarize themselves with the concerns, right? Apparently not. Apparently Jimmy cannot be bothered to do that, even after the allegations have been explained on an interview on the Sabby Sab show, a channel which is adjacent to Jimmy Dore. Sabby's been on Jimmy Dore's show. She seems to still like Jimmy Dore. Jimmy seems to like her. The fact that he didn't even take the time to listen to her interview and listen to Zaina Day's story, I think is just crazy. But again, if you're going to keep promoting a political party, I think you should at least do your basic levels of homework, but apparently not. Anyway, let's take a listen to this before we get into some of the comments.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're about to all get to see what a hardball interview looks like, right? Jimmy Dore loves to bemoan access journalism. I'm sure he's going to give Nick Brana the real 1-2 here.
because of judges. That's hilarious. Anyway, so well, good luck, and this is what happens to you, and then I'm sure there'll be a hashtag Me Too come at you too. Do they still do that after Joe Biden? Does that still happen after Joe Biden?
Doesn't seem like it.
Anyway, so that'll happen. That's what they do. Except they couldn't do it to Ralph Nader. Nobody would have believed it for a second. But anyway, you did have some, right, Nick? Now you made a video recently. You tell me.
They have. They've tried that. I mean, they've tried all kinds of things against me and the People's Party. And yes, we made a video responding to those accusations against me.
Oh, okay. There's a video.
It's on our YouTube. Anyone who wants to see it can go see it.
Okay.
But when you look at the people who are under the most attack in this country,
oh, he's freezing. Goddamn internet.
When you look at the people that are most under attack in this country,
yeah, I was Jackson Hinkle. He's being deplatformed left and right. You're being attacked constantly. Max Blumenthal,
Aaron Mate, Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi. We could go down the list.
What do these people have in common?
Chris Hedges.
Chris Hedges. These people are actually working to bring together left and right, because that threatens the establishment the most. And so those people are the people who, like, the antibodies of the establishment.
So sorry to break in, but did I miss it? Or when was Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, Chris Hedges, Aaron, when were these people accused of sexual assault and harassment? Like, if you're saying, oh, this is what they do to all the people that are really challenging power, Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, Aaron Mate, Jackson Hinkle, as far as I know, motherfucker, you're the only one that's been accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Am I wrong? Have these other people that you just brought up been accused of sexual harassment? Because you're saying, like, oh, this is what they do to all the people that seriously challenge power. Meanwhile, let's not forget, the People's Party is not seriously challenging power. They don't have a single goddamn candidate. Do you really think that, like, the fucking CIA or whatever is sitting around like, oh, let's take down the People's Party, this completely incompetent joke scam of a party? It's not even a political party. Let's spend our time infiltrating this and, leveling false accusations at this loser right here, even though they've never accomplished anything and never will accomplish anything. Again, they don't have a single candidate on the ballot after like 5 years of being in existence. In what way are these people seriously threatening the establishment? And if you're going to falsely accuse someone of sexual assault, why not do it to like Howie Hawkins or something? He was at least on the ballot. He was at least on the fucking ballot. The People's Party doesn't have a single candidate on the ballot at any level whatsoever, but he's still going to pretend that his threat to the establishment is why he's been accused of impropriety, despite the fact that those allegations seem, by all accounts, to be very credible.
Yeah, I mean, one, to echo your point, no, there have been no allegations against the other individuals that you've mentioned of allegations of fucking rape. I want everybody to fucking grapple with this too, because this is the way that this little shithead is smirking it off on the Jimmy Dore show. Serious fucking criminal allegations against himself, okay? And he has this whole martyr complex, this whole messiah thing going on. It's fucking ridiculous. It's pathetic to watch, and honestly, the dude just makes me want to vomit every time he opens his fucking mouth. But that's not substantive commentary. That's just the way I feel whenever I listen to him yap.
And I'm actually in awe of his restraint here, because he didn't bring up Julian Assange. Usually when he's talking about this, he says, oh, well, they're doing to me just what they did to Assange. As if Nick fucking Brana has ever challenged power 1/10 as much as Julian Assange has in a fucking day of his life. As if anything Nick Brana has ever accomplished even holds a fucking candle to the serious journalism, the actual anti-establishment, anti-imperialist journalism of Julian Assange. So yeah, I'm actually in awe of his fucking restraint that he didn't bring up Julian Assange there, but instead he just brought up a bunch of other people who have not been accused of sexual assault, somehow kind of implying that they have. Like, when the fuck has Chris Hedges been accused of sexual assault? Literally never. But for some reason you're going to compare yourself to him because you both challenge the establishment. Fuck off.
What do these people have in common?
Chris Hedges.
Chris Hedges. These people are actually working to bring together left and right, because that threatens the establishment the most. And so those people are the people who, like, the antibodies of the establishment, try to destroy those people the most. And I think that's what we're seeing with everybody.
Well, I'm always suspicious of people who spend months and months and over a year to try to undermine the efforts of a third party that has no money and no power at all. It's immediately suspicious when people spend make it their career to try to undermine an organization that has no money and no power. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't believe victims of abuse want people to know their story. What a crazy reality we live in.
Less money and power than the Boy Scouts, and they're trying to go. So that's what happens, right? So that the establishment wants to undermine, and they try to divide, and they infiltrate. I mean, there were infiltrators in Bernie Sanders' campaign the first time. We covered it on our show. I mean, legit infiltrators, like from the intelligence community, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's because Bernie Sanders' campaign was actually a legitimate threat to the establishment. Clearly, what is the People's Party ever accomplished? What is there even to infiltrate? It's not even a political party. It's a literal scam grift of an organization that just exists to glean a few extra dollars out of the pockets of Jimmy Dore's audience. That's all it fucking is. They've never accomplished anything. They never have accomplished anything. They never will accomplish anything. They pretended like they were going to run a slate of congressional candidates in this election cycle. And instead, now they're just pivoting to try to draft Dore for 2024, even though Jimmy pretty clearly doesn't actually want anything to do with that.
Yep.
So, so that's what they do, and they try to squash it before it has a chance to grow. This is one way. They try to get you kicked off the ballot, and they use obscure laws and all kinds of crazy stuff. And there's lots of. And another way is to try to infiltrate, undermine, create division. You know how it goes. It's the same thing. And
Exactly.
So. Well, good luck. Good luck with this. It's not going to be.
Nick Brun is glad. He's so fucking lucky that Jimmy Dore has not an ounce of journalistic integrity, apparently. Because again, even if you still support the People's Party despite everything, even if you genuinely think Nick Brun is innocent, don't you still at least think that like such claims deserve to be looked into, deserve to be vetted, and not just like passed off and swept under the rug? Oh, it's just the establishment, bro. It's just them, trying to infiltrate you and take you down. Like, don't you think that these kind of accusations deserve at least a little bit of investigation and scrutiny? Don't you think it's at least worth listening to the stories of these people before you just write it off in such a callous way and in such a disgusting way? It just blows my mind.
Yeah, pretty pathetic all around. Not much else to say about it other than the fact that this is people showing you their true colors when the rubber hits the road. What's Jimmy going to do when it's his friends that need to be pushed? Is he going to do access journalism like he always criticizes everyone else for? Or is he going to go hardball like he always claims to do? Well, we saw it for ourselves right there. Does look like we got a few super chats, though. Oh, did you want to get into the reactions really quick?
Yeah, so quickly, I did want to get into some of the comments Jimmy received on his video segments featuring Nick Brana. Here's Radical Leftist Agenda on Twitter saying that Jimmy is acting like Nick Brana is some legit authority on third parties, but the comment section is where it's at. And I saved some of the comments before they get deleted because the Jimmy Dore Show is notorious for censoring comments on their page.
Which is hilarious because his fans melt down that everybody else is doing that all the time.
I know, it's so funny. And by the way, Radical Leftist Agenda is a Jimmy Dore fan. This is not like some fucking Jimmy Dore hater. This is someone who's part of that community. Anyway, they go on to post some of the comments here. Thank you for bringing this up. I was wondering the same thing. I really like Jimmy's show too. I hope he's receptive to whoever contacts him. I'm kind of disgusted to see Nick's face on here till he comes forward with the evidence he claims to have explaining everything about his accuser. And that's a really good point. They're referencing here the fact that Nick Brana went on Sabrina's show on the Sabby Sabs podcast. When he was on there, he said, oh yeah, I'll send you all this information I have that basically verifies my claims and that proves that my accuser is lying. He promised Sabby he would send her that information. Then a couple months down the road, when Sabby interviewed Zaina Day, the accuser, she clarified that she never received any of those documents. Nick Brana never sent her any of the documents that he claimed would prove his innocence. So even though he said live on air, promising her, yes, I will send you these documents that prove my innocence, he never fucking did. So doesn't that kind of tell you what you need to know? Like, let's be honest here. Here's another
also like the fucking explicit evidence that they were infiltrated by our Revolution LA and that these people were all Democratic infiltrators. Yeah, still waiting for that smoking gun, Nick. It never came. You just fucking trashed and smeared and slandered people, just like you're doing now.
Exactly. And that's going back to what I said earlier. Even if you put aside the allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault, there's been allegations from People's Party volunteers for years now that don't even have anything to do with sexual impropriety, that are just simply about the dysfunctionality of the party and how there's no accountability whatsoever behind the scenes. And those people were also smeared as infiltrators by the People's Party. And guess how I know they're fucking lying about that too? Because if they had evidence, we would have fucking seen it by now. If you think the People's Party had evidence that there were infiltrators in their organization and they didn't release that information, then you're crazy. Obviously, if they had that information, they would have happily and eagerly released it as soon as they possibly could have. But the fact that they haven't tells you everything you need to know. There were no infiltrators. It's all just smears. Anyway, let's look at some more comments. This one says, also, he spent 5 years in DC working as an intern. How did he support himself while living in such an expensive city? He spent his freshman year of college in London, then transferred to the College of William and Mary, a bit pricey. He claims that he has not collected a salary from MPP, but his father has some type of role in MPP. I suspect he comes from a wealthy family who can afford to support him. He's able to work for free until he can earn a salary. That means he has a lot of influence in MPP. And again, these are all comments on the Jimmy Dore show. These are people that are part of Jimmy's community that are commenting this stuff, very critical of Nick Brana. Here's one that says, I used to support them, but there's too much evidence against MPP/Brana. Jimmy is making a serious mistake by taking sides. And I totally agree with that. Like, again, Jimmy's not the worst commentator ever. I still agree with a solid percentage of what the guy says. I really genuinely wish that he would wisen up and stop associating with Nick Brana. Like, if you want to push the third party movement, I'm 100% with you. I vote Green Party. So platform them. Why are you platforming a fake organization, a fake third party that is actively taking away money, attention, donations, support, and volunteer time from real organizations that are pushing the third party goal that I actually support? Why are you platforming this fake grifter?
I mean, I think it's obvious, right? The Green Party would challenge him. The Green Party wouldn't promote his content relentlessly from their main Twitter page. The Green Party would be actual serious about promoting their goals and not just being the Jimmy Dore fan club official Twitter account, right? And I think that that's exactly why we've seen him just, what does Jimmy love? He loves adulation. He loves people that shower him with praise, and he wants to surround himself basically exclusively with people who do just that. And so I think it's only natural that he would, continue to defend the movement for a People's Party, because they've satisfied, in a very Trumpian way, they just satisfy all of his worst impulses, which is to, make him seem like he's right about everything and that everybody against him is an op, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, I think that his audience is waking up, those of them that will. Obviously, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. This is something that he would never look past for anybody else. This person, Blue Moon Red Wine, says, Jimmy, I seriously worry about some of Nick Brana's background, including doing communications for John Kerry and having a paid position with Terry McAuliffe, governor of Virginia, who was chairman of DNC and former advisor to the Clintons. Nothing against third parties, but all these parties seem to have individuals with too long a history with Democrats. That what gives me comfort, and not just as voters. I hope you look into this because I do like your show, no matter how many people troll you. Thanks. And Steve Jones said Nick Brana recently had some allegations against him, plus his own third-party Twitter account went nuts, spamming tons of tweets that made him look completely insane. That was what I was referencing earlier. And he still hasn't explained himself regarding these allegations. His accuser has already come forward and even showed audio and MPP email receipts. The fact that Jimmy continues to give him a platform time, and that previous grapefruit interview, it's not a good look on Jimmy. It's an awful look, and he's going to hear from me. I'm very disappointed in Jimmy because because he knows the allegations. Yeah, one, that top comment, Blue Moon Red Wine, that would have been a Gray Zone article if this was not a fucking Jimmy Dore affiliated fucking MPP. Of course it was. If this Blue Moon Red guy knows it, Aaron Matte and Max Blumenthal would have been like, John Kerry, Terry McAuliffe, are you fucking kidding me? I'm just telling you that would have been like Nick Brana, head of third party op from DC. That's like an obvious low-hanging fruit Gray Zone article. And I'm not even going to be mad about it if I see it. I'd be like, yep, that's the kind of shit they write about. They write about where everybody was employed before this and if that's shady or not. And that is 100% they're right. But we all know for a fact, okay, that would have been a Gray Zone article years ago. But while they both suck from the same tit, so it's all good.
So true. And honestly, that reminds me of a joke I've been making from the beginning, which is maybe the infiltrator is Nick Brana. Maybe he's been sent to make the third party movement look like a fucking joke and take away time, energy, and donations from the actual serious third party efforts, such as the Greens, which are actually challenging the duopoly in a serious way. Because again, what Nick's doing is not helping the third party movement. It's making the third party movement look like shit. It's making it look unserious. It's taking money and donations and attention away from serious efforts like the Socialist Alternative and like the Green Party. And that's why I think it's bullshit that Jimmy keeps platforming this fucking grifter and asking people in his donation to support this fake organization. Because again, I actually care about the third party organization. I care about the third party movement. We're not just doing the segment to dunk on Jimmy Dore and score some points on Jimmy Dore. No, I actually think that it's morally reprehensible for him to, keep providing this kind of softball treatment to someone who's been credibly accused, but also because I actually care about the goals of the third party, and this is not helping those goals be accomplished. So that's why we're doing the segment. I think it's worth pointing out. And yeah, also the fact that there are people in Jimmy Dore's audience like Radical Leftist Agenda, shout out to you if you're watching, that are also fed up with this and also think this is really gross and icky behavior. It's not how people on the left should respond to these very serious allegations. And again, even if you think that Nick is innocent, you have every right to think that, but you should at least believe in like real journalism being done. And when someone is accused of something like this, you don't just like sweep it under the rug. You're supposed to actually like question that person, investigate these allegations, etc. And Jimmy doesn't seem to have any interest in doing that, in holding anyone accountable. Instead, he just wants to keep platforming and potentially enabling someone that's an accused abuser and harasser.
100%. So, I mean, that's about all there is to say about Jimmy and Nick Branna. I mean, you guys have known how we felt from jump. We published our fucking article with all of our evidence and all of our interviews with the actual people way back in the day, and we followed the, massive fall of the People's Party. Not much of a fall. They never soared very high. But anyway, we've been following the crumbling of that effort for a long time. And I think it's hilarious too. Like, cope, guys. Like, you want to pretend like Gavin and I are not like, oh, we're just trashing third parties. Like, that's just the biggest lie ever. I mean, Gavin's a two-time third party voter. I voted for third party in local elections and in down ballot races before. I'm not at all opposed to the third party mission. In fact, I'm quite supportive of it, but just not a dog shit one that's clearly not ever going to go anywhere and is a waste of fucking time. And I just think that you have to be really, really doing like team politics and like me versus you kind of like simping in order to not see that. And so, yeah, shout out to everybody who, in Jimmy Dore's audience that was able to be like, no, you know what, I'm going to make up my own mind about this. Like, I am my own authentic thinker, and I think that that's important, especially when you're being like fucking inundated by all these comments that Jimmy Dore is the only truth teller and all that kind of bullshit. So anyway, shout out to those people. And I know we have a couple of super chats to get to as well. 100% of the time when a left candidate wins, they shut up and go along with the leadership. They must have pics of these people with sheep or strangling kittens or something. Don't expect much. Look, like I would say like 98% of the time, you're 100% correct, right? Like 98% of the time, it happens 100% of the time. But there are still those other 2%. And look, the reality is that we're not disagreeing with you, right? I would love for you to give a alternative that's not like vote third party. It's like, okay, bro, in this election, there's no third party challenger to vote for in that particular instance. What do you tell the people of Pennsylvania to do? Nothing? Sit on your hands? Be virtuous? Like, no, of course not. You say, okay, here is the calculations that has been made. We're not telling you what you have to do, but this is what we believe is the best decision. So of course, I told you a million times, I think he will probably be like an Elizabeth Warren type of a governor. Maybe he wouldn't vote for the fucking military bill that she voted for. That was completely disgusting, but maybe he would have. I don't fucking know. That's why I said I think I would put him in that camp, because I don't trust him like that, but I think he would do way better than Dr. Oz. And this isn't vote blue no matter who shit. If there was an effective third party insurgent that was running against John Fetterman, we would be covering him every single fucking day. We just had Matthew Ho on, who got fucked by the Democratic Party. It's a real uphill battle if you're a serious person running Greens, and we support that mission, but we can't pretend we're already there, right? And we don't have any other decisions to think about or races to comment on or calculations to make about harm reduction, because that's what it means to be an actual leftist, is to think about your community and the collective working class around the country and globe. How is this going to impact them?
100%. And even though I agree he might end up being an Elizabeth Warren-esque senator, I still think he's far better at communicating than Elizabeth Warren is. Like, when average working people think of the left, I'd rather them think of a guy like John Fetterman than a stodgy academic like Elizabeth Warren. And I'm not like an anti-intellectual, anti-education type of person. I know that can come off that way when I talk about this stuff. I'm not, opposed to people going through the academic world and receiving an education and an institution and all that. I'm really not against that stuff, but I do think the left has a problem where they appear to all be professorial and elitist, whereas someone like Fetterman really offsets that with his more working class tough guy vibes. And I think the left should lean into that more. Anyway, thank you, Michael. And largely, I do agree with you, as unfortunate as it is. So thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you also, John Walter. Can we get a deep dive on why Jon Stewart sucks? Interviews with Bernie versus Hillary, Obama, Kerry are telling don't want our crew disillusioned by his progressivism, thinking he should run. Much love, boys. Well, thank you so much, John. And I don't think Jon Stewart sucks. I really don't. Like out of all of like the political comedian types, he's probably the best, straight up. I really don't think he sucks at all. There's a few issues where I disagree with him on, and that's why I was just saying that I don't know if he would necessarily be like the ideal candidate for the left to run as far as like for president or anything. I don't think he's as principled and anti-capitalist as I am in that sense, or as some of the people I would like to see run, but I don't think he sucks.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that he would govern very much like Obama would in office. I think that he's given himself away a lot of times over the years. And even though I think that as a performer, he does so much and he's able to ridicule and lambast, I think that he's the kind of guy that would get sucked up in that machine. And while there might be some incremental things that he would do better than Obama, I think that he would not at all be tough on the petroleum industry. I don't think he has any idea how that works. We've just reacted to a clip of him a few weeks ago where he was talking about how, the fossil fuel industries aren't our enemies, they're our frenemies, and that we need to be taking care of them and we need to be helping them do a just transition. Him and Stephen Colbert led a march under the Obama administration when people were fucking most desperate out of their entire lives, most desperate after the financial crash in 2008. And they led an entire march through Washington that was like, everything's okay, we're just fine, these people have no grievances, like the Tea Party is like, they're just out of control and nobody actually has any real grievances. Like, I just think that his class colors would completely erase anything I like about the guy, which is why I genuinely don't hope that he never runs. Because I mean, if people ask me like, oh, like, were you inspired by Jon Stewart? Of course I was. I used to watch The Daily Show every single night. I used to watch it with my mom on the couch, like when I was an actual fucking child, not like child, but like 13. You know what I mean? And that was like a part of my like night. Okay, I love the guy's commentary. I love his comedy. But if he ran for president, I mean, when I say it, like, I would have to fucking hate the guy, because I think that he would let fucking the military industrial complex reign. I don't think that he would at all get behind Medicare for all. I think he would give the like bullshit spirit of Medicare for all, Pete Buttigieg public option kind of a thing to people. I just do. And I think that the fact that he has absolutely nothing to lose and he's still sucking up to fossil fuel industries when he's not planning to run, I'm just like, I don't trust you at all. But I don't think, I mean, like, he doesn't suck. He's just a comedian. He doesn't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be hard on the guy. I love his comedy. I think he's super sharp, was amazing late night satirist, all this kind of stuff. But I just don't think he understands that capitalism and the U.S. military are the enemy in the way that I would need my president to deeply understand that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to clarify, when I meant he doesn't suck, I meant as a comedian. Like, as far as a political commentator / comedian, he really is one of the best ones on the mainstream level. And I do believe that to be true. But yeah, I agree. If he became literally president, then yeah, I'd probably get co-opted just like 99% of everyone else does. I definitely agree with that. Oops. Didn't mean to put that on screen. But also thank you, John Walter, for the $1.99. Jon Stewart's honestly worse than Jimmy Dore, IMO. What's your response to that, Zach?
Jon Stewart's never had a alleged rape victims accuser on his show to run cover for them. So I will say that. I also would say that, gun to my head, Jon Stewart is just 10 times funnier. But I would probably say that my politics actually align more with Jimmy Dore. So that's the mixed bag, right? Like, are we saying worse as a political analyst? Like, no, my politics do align more with Jimmy Dore. As a comedian, like, come on, guys, let's not be rude, or let's not be crazy.
Yeah, obviously, there are issues where Jimmy's better, like universal healthcare, for example. I don't see Jon Stewart beating that drum enough. He seems to really like to fight for healthcare for like the troops and for 9/11 first responders, which we gave him massive credit for. It would be cool if he had that same level of ferocity for fighting for healthcare for everyone. That would be dope. Anyway, thank you so much for the super chat, John. Thank you, Charles, for the $5. The net worth of a political party or movement is calculated in votes, not clicks. Yeah, that is very accurate. I think that's fair to say.
Real insightful, Charles. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate the donation. Thank you also, Cheryl. Dore will throw Brana under the bus just like he did with his friends, Kyle, Ron Falcone, Jordan Sheraton. The list goes on and on. Well, that's only ever if Brana decides to criticize him at all. As long as Brana keeps licking his ball sack like an obedient dog, then no, Jimmy Dore will not turn on him.
What do you do with your dog, Gavin? Jesus Christ, is there children watching? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I genuinely agree with Gavin on that one. And look, that's the whole deal with Jimmy, right? It's like you kiss the ring and then you get access to his fucking audience, right? And if you don't, then you get the fucking ire of his audience, and that's the balance. And Nick Brandon knows that, and that's why he's not going anywhere, and he'll just fawn over Jimmy until the fucking juice is run dry.
Absolutely. Speaking of interesting ways to phrase things, but yeah, thanks so much, Cheryl. Really appreciate that. And yeah, again, the reason why he threw his friends Kyle, Ron Placone, and Jordan Sheridan under the bus is because those people dared to criticize him or disagree with him. Again, I don't think Nick Brana is ever going to do that. Jimmy Dore could say anything, and Nick Brana will affirm it. You know, he's never going to push back. So. Anyway, thank you so much, Cheryl, for the $10. Really appreciate that. Thank you also, Keeper of Traken, for the $2. I remember we got a comment from you recently because we looked up your dope profile picture. But thanks so much for the $2. Keep up the good work watching it on the replay. Well, thanks so much for tuning in today. Hope you enjoy the commentary. Keeper, really appreciate the contribution.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Yep. And thank you also, Mike H, once again. I'm not sure what is worse, Jimmy continuing to buddy up with Nick Brana or Glenn Greenwald trying to rehabilitate Alex Jones. Yeah, I still have to watch the panel that Glenn did with Alex Jones. So I still can't really comment on that one. I know that a lot of people had an issue with the way he questioned Jones, but I really don't want to comment on it until I've seen it myself.
Yeah. I also haven't watched it. I've read some clips of it on Twitter that I can wholeheartedly say would not be the questions that I asked Alex Jones. But again, Alex Jones hasn't, yes, he was accused of some vile shit and he was convicted of it. So I guess, he has Nick Brand has never been convicted in a court of his peers. But I think that they're a little bit apples to oranges in those two situations. I wouldn't want to compare those two.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you also, Infinite Bomb Dog, for the $5. At least we can all agree Jon Stewart is way better than Colbert, Trevor, or Oliver. I would definitely agree that Jon Stewart is way better than Stephen Colbert and Trevor Noah. John Oliver is kind of interesting because every once in a while he does do a really substantive and really interesting segment where he does like a deep dive on a topic that's really important and does a pretty good job. But then every once in a while he'll also do some really cringy shit. Like I remember him mocking Jill Stein in 2016. I thought that was pretty gross, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think that they're actually pretty similar, whereas they're hit or miss. But I think John Oliver and Jon Stewart are easily the two best in that regard.
Yeah, so this will date me, right? I'm gonna be the old guy on air. I remember young whippersnappers when a film called Rosewater was being made by a guy named Jon Stewart, and John Oliver came in and he hosted the Daily Show as the guest host in 2013. It was like my freshman year of high school when I was really, really right after I really got committed to loving Jon Stewart, and then John Oliver came and like hosted it for like 6 months, and it was just such a markedly worse show when John Oliver was hosting the Daily Show that I think that he was really beneficial for making it a little bit more his own when he went to Last Week Tonight, and it's not just 100. Like that's why Trevor Noah can't succeed, because nobody can do what Jon Stewart did in the same formula better than Jon Stewart did. He invented that whole kind of a lane, right? In a way, and it honestly kind of gave birth to a little bit of what we do in some capacities, right? So I guess it depends on the material, but if it's me, I'll always go Jon Stewart over John Oliver. Even though there have been, as you said, Gavin, some really good clips from John Oliver, but he also had some really terrible clips. Like I remember when Abby Martin did a savage takedown of his coverage of Venezuela, which was pretty base. Shout out to Abby Martin and Empire Files. So yeah, they all have bad takes. But if we're just talking like straight up comedy, I would probably buy a ticket to Jon Stewart before the other three.
Yeah, that is accurate to say. I definitely think as far as comedy goes, Stewart is better than Oliver. But again, Oliver has done some good segments. Like he did a really good one on tech monopolies recently. That was one of the best deep dives on the subject that I've ever watched. So like, I'm not trying to like not give credit where it's due. John Oliver does do some good stuff, but I do agree that obviously he's had some dog shit takes. Haven't we all had some dog shit takes over the year? But yeah, definitely some stuff that's unexcusable. Thank you so much for the $5 though, Infinite Bomb Dog. Really appreciate that. And thank you so much, Zachary, for the $4.99. Really appreciate that, Zachary. Stewart and Pasobic had a real-time beef with Stewart screaming at him, thinking he was a troll that ended in solidarity over veterans should react. Interesting. I'll definitely have to check that out. I know who you're talking about. I think his name is like Jack Pasobic or whatever. He's like a total right-wing loser.
OAN guy, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll definitely have to check that out. We might react to that later.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Pasovic is like literally like a fucking insane, crazy right winger. But I'm not saying that I would not agree with him on anything either. So maybe they did find good common ground, and we'll look into that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're actually principled as a conservative and you support the military and the troops, then you should 100% be aligned with John Oliver's quest to get the burn pit victims health care. Like, that should be an obvious no-brainer for you if you actually are principled, pro-military, pro-veteran conservative. Anyway, thank you so much, Zachary, for the super chat. And that just about does it for the Vanguard Live today. Longer show than expected, but I thought we had a really good conversation.
Oh yeah, we had a dank show, and I'd be down to come back tomorrow. I don't, depending on if we have more shit to talk about. Gavin and I are going to start trying to do, I think, a little bit more routine shows on the live show now that we might not be on call-in so much. So you guys are going to get to see our friendly faces even more than you're used to, and we're also going to have some extra time to crank out that van content. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We aren't going anywhere. We are digging our heels into the dirt. We're in for the long haul over here at the Vanguard, and we really, really appreciate the community of people that's come out. Our haters alike. We know we have a lot of hate watchers, and that's actually something that I'm most proud of, because that's how you know that your show is actually entertaining and good and worth watching. It's like, you guys hate our fucking political analysis so bad, and you all you want to do is comment about it. I'm like, well, hey, at least our like beats on the microphone aren't fucking too painful to listen to. Then we've got at least that cadence down where it's not just horrible to listen to. So you always gotta pat yourself on the back if you can keep some hate watchers around. So good job, Gavin. Good run today. And as always, the patron community keeps the wheels on our van going round and round, as I've decided I'm going to say now.
Yeah, I like your saying, Zach. But yeah, thanks so much to the patrons. Huge shout out to you guys for keeping the Vanguard going. Big shout out to the patron community. You guys know that we like to start and end all of our live streams with a big shout out to the patrons. We would not be able to do the show without you guys. So sincerely, we thank you for supporting our show. If you're interested in joining the patron community and having your name up on the shout out screen yourself, then you can hit up the link in the description. It's going to be found in the description of this stream and all of our video content. Patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Great way to support the show. There's also a PayPal link in the description if you're feeling extra generous. But anyway, if you're not able to support the show financially, that's totally understandable. Just please hit that like button. It really helps to promote the stream and the algorithm. And obviously hit that subscribe button if you're not already. That way you don't miss our next live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed the commentary today. I thought we had a really good conversation. And yeah, we'll probably be back tomorrow. But yeah, everyone have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you around.
Also, if you haven't checked out Peaky Blinders, bro, I just got sucked down that rabbit hole, and I'm about to go watch some more of it. PSA to the public. That actually is real art from Netflix.
I'm going to have to check it out. You've been saying it's good, so I will watch Peaky Blinders.
I turned it on at midnight last night. I'm 4 episodes deep.
Nice. Well, again, thanks everyone for tuning into the show today. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. We're looking forward to seeing you next time. Peace out.